Attention please, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching, yes, the Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network.
The scene is Toronto, the site of an American League East showdown. Beautiful city, ready for what should be a rock'em sock'em three-game set. And it is time for baseball as the Yes Network presents New York Yankees baseball. Tonight, it's the New York Yankees against the Toronto Blue Jays in the first of three from Rogers Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Yankees baseball along with David Cohn. I'm Michael Kay. Yankees against the Blue Jays, two high-scoring teams, but last year, the Blue Jays took it to a whole nother level. It was amazing the damage they did offensively. It was Powerball indeed, and that's how they won the East. Jose Bautista, 229 home runs, the most in the big league since 2010. Now you go to 2011, Encarnacion 168, second most in Major League Baseball. Josh Donaldson last year won the American League MVP. Troy Tulowitzki joined the crowd, 6 career 20 or more home run seasons. And then the Blue Jays as a team, 232 team home runs. They led Major League Baseball, and that got them back into the postseason for the first time since the early 90s. Pretty amazing stuff. You look at this lineup, it is dynamic. As a pitcher, how do you go up against it?
You call it sick, baby. That is the deadest, reddest fastball hitting machine of a lineup I think I've seen in a long time. All four of those great right-handed hitters never miss fastballs. They chase you out of the strike zone, and as a pitcher, you almost get afraid to throw your fastball, and you start trying to nibble on the corners. You start trying to pitch backwards and junk ball them. The next thing you know, they get in a better fastball count, and then you have to give in to them, and that's when they're most dangerous, when they're in hitters' counts.
All right, so let's take a look at the pitching matchup that's going to have to deal with this, and it's brought to you by People's United Bank N.A. See what know-how can do for you. Aaron Sanchez gets to start for the Blue Jays. We'll talk about him once the game begins. And for the Yankees, it's Masahiro Tanaka. He's made one start, David. That was on opening day against the Astros. And what does he have to do differently or better?
Well, you know, the thing with Masahiro Tanaka is that he doesn't walk people. He has excellent control, but he's pitching away from his fastball more and more. We did see a lot of movement on that two-seam fastball, but it's all movement now. The days of the 95-mile-an-hour fastball are probably gone for now, unless it gets warmer and he starts to rear back. But he's got to throw his breaking ball for strikes, get the curveball over to change speeds, get in a position to use that splitter, which is still a devastating pitch. I still think Tanaka has a great split-finger fastball that gets a lot of swings and misses. He's just got to get in ahead in the count to be able to use that pitch.
This should be a fun series. This should be a fun game tonight. We are looking forward to it. And I'll tell you what, when you take a look at both of these lineups, the stars are out tonight, despite the fact that the roof is closed. They are that celestial that you actually will be able to see them on your TV screen. When we get back, Yankees, Blue Jays, lineups, first pitch baseball next on Yes. Brought to you in part by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer. By DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. By the new JetBlue card, fly faster than you think. And by Buick. Experience the new Buick for yourself at Buick.com. Inside the Dome, the Blue Jays have taken the field, and we will head downstairs to the field where Meredith Marachmans has some information. Meredith?
Hey, Michael, just a couple things to watch out for in tonight's game. We'll start with Masahiro Tanaka. David, you documented how important it is for him to have that pinpoint control, especially against his lineup. Well, Masahiro Tanaka is pitching on 6 days rest, and typically that has not been a problem for him. In instances like that, he is 5-0, opposing teams hitting just 179 against him. But Joe Girardi did tell me earlier that it's a fine line between giving a pitcher rest and having them be sharp, and giving a pitcher rest and having it be detrimental to them, especially early in the game. So watch out for Masahiro Tanaka and how he comes out in this one. Also, Josh Donaldson back in the field. He DH'd in the Red Sox series. He was dealing with a bit of a calf issue. It's the first time he is back out there in the field since that calf problem.
All right, thank you, Meredith. Why don't we take a look at the Yankees starting lineup that is presented by Lexus. Yankees coming in 3-2. Jacoby Ellsbury in center leads off. Batting second and playing left field, Brett Gardner likes hitting here at Rogers Center. A-Rod, the DH, will hit third. Switch hitting first baseman Mark Teixeira cleans up. Ryan McCann will bat fifth till catch. Switch hitting right fielder Carlos Beltran bats sixth. Another switch hitter Chase Headley at third base bats seventh. Batting eighth playing second base Starlin Castro. And Didi Gregorius, the shortstop, is going to bat ninth for the Yanks.
And here's young Aaron Sanchez, just 23 years old. Spent most of the time in the bullpen last year, although did get some starts. Had a very solid first start of the year. 8 strikeouts against only 0 walks. They project him to be a top of the rotation guy. Probably a #1 before he's done developing. Let's go ahead and give you the pitcher scouting report brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealers. And yes, at 23 years old and 96 miles an hour on his average fastball, that is a young power arm. It also has heavy sink to it. And probably an innings limit this year for him, Michael, because he only threw 92 total last year.
And the first pitch is a strike to Ellsbury as we are underway. James Hoy is the home plate umpire. Chad Fairchild at first. The veteran crew chief Jim Joyce is the second base ump. Marvin Hudson over at third. Ground ball up the middle and stopped by a diving Tulowitzki, but there'll be no play. A base hit for Jacoby Ellsbury to start the game off. Why don't we check out the Blue Jays defense, which is presented by Geico. You've got Michael Saunders in left, Kevin Pillar in center, and Jose Bautista, great arm, over and right infield. Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Goins, and Colabello third to first. Martin, Russell Martin behind the plate. David told you about Aaron Sanchez on the mound. Now you might have noticed that it's different here at Rogers Center. The infield base paths are actually all dirt. It used to be just patches of dirt around the bases, but that's been removed, and they expect the infield to play faster because of that. There's Brett Gardner. Joe Girardi tested the turf out today and said it was very, very bouncy, more so than usual. This is a shot from last year, and now tonight it's all dirt, and they say that the dirt is actually faster and the ball spins more and will get to the outfield quicker than on the artificial turf. And the Blue Jays are happy about it. They said we'll get some more hits.
As if this place doesn't yield enough already.
Oh, nice pick there by Martin, saving a wild pitch. Now, the reason that they finally did this is a multi-purpose stadium. They have concerts here, but the CFL Argonauts had played here since it opened, but they've moved to BMO Field, which is actually where Old Exhibition Stadium used to be. So they don't have to convert it to a football field, and it's easier now to have the dirt. They're eventually going to go to all grass. Another one in the dirt, another block by Martin. I'd also think, David, that for the infielders, there's going to be less wear and tear in the back and the legs standing there for 9 innings. Outfield, you're still going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm sure Troy Tulowitzki, standing out short, likes it a lot. Noticing that they water down this new dirt a lot to try to soften it up.
(2-1), showing bunt, and he takes outside 3-1. Crowd doesn't like that call. Alex is on deck.
This is young Aaron Sanchez's just 13th career Major League start. We mentioned he's 23 years old from #1 draft. Gained 20 pounds from last year to this year. Looks a lot bigger, stronger, ready for the rotation.
3-2. So now the Yankees have a decision. Do you send Ellsbury on a 3-2 count? That fastball by Sanchez was 95 miles an hour. Mentioned Yankees are 3-2. Sunday night in Detroit was weathered out. The Blue Jays are 3-4. They just lost 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox here in Toronto. Runner goes. That one is grounded back to Sanchez. Thought about second. His only plays at first. So sending the runner kept them out of a double play. One away, runner on second. Let's take a look at the game time weather presented by Bigelow Tea. Luckily, the roof is closed. There was some snow flurries earlier today. It's 41 degrees outside, humidity 49%, wind 18 miles per hour. Forecast is mostly cloudy, 30% chance of rain, showers, or flurries, but with the roof closed, it's about 72 degrees inside. Here's A-Rod. 58 home runs lifetime against the Blue Jays, and he has 99 runs batted in here at Rogers Center. Fastball's up and in.
I talked to Alex Rodriguez before the game around the batting cage, and he just talked about being loose and relaxed and talking a lot about technique, not worrying about his age. He feels like mechanically, if his technique is right, he can catch up with this Aaron Sanchez fastball tonight.
Hi. 1-1.
It's always going to be a test, as we mentioned in Detroit, Michael. For the older players, they're always going to get challenged to see how their bat speed is. Can they still catch up with fastballs? And Alex certainly did in Detroit and hit a long one on a fastball right down the middle.
That one is ripped to right field, but Bautista backs up to make the play. And Ellsbury advances to third. So Alex hit one right on the screws, but Bautista ran it down. So 2 away, and that's going to bring up Mark Teixeira. So far, 5 hits and 18 at bats in the 5 games, 2 homers and 7 runs batted in.
Seems like Teixeira has picked up right where he left off before that devastating injury last year. Probably gets in more hitters counts than any other Yankee batter up and down the lineup. Still has a great eye.
Shift is on, 3 infielders on the right side. And a strike to Teixeira. Just underway here in Toronto. Runner at third. Nobody out. Top of the first inning. 2 men out. Top of the first inning. Pumping heat. That's 97 miles an hour. Reaching back. The count 0-2. Miss, and Teixeira down on strike. So the Yankees waste the leadoff single by Ellsbury. Yankees nothing, and the Blue Jays come to bat. scorer in the top of the first. Now it's the Blue Jays' turn against that man, Masahiro Tanaka. Let's take a look at the Blue Jays starting lineup. It starts with their center fielder, Kevin Pillar. Then the reigning American League MVP, Josh Donaldson at third base, will bat second. See his numbers from last year. Jose Bautista over and right will hit third. Cleaning up the DH, Edwin Encarnacion. Troy Tulowitzki, the shortstop, bats fifth. Batting sixth, playing first base, Chris Colabello. Michael Saunders in left field will bat seventh. Batting eighth and catching, the former Yankee Russell Martin. And Ryan Goins, the second baseman, is going to bat ninth.
You see Masahiro Tanaka is ready to go. The warm-ups are done. Pitching with extra rest because of the snow day in Detroit. And pretty decent first start. Even though he pitched into the sixth, it was that one home run that kind of got him, but typical good control. Let's go ahead and give you the pitcher's scouting report brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealers. And he showed a real moving fastball in his first start and produced 11 ground balls with that moving two-seam fastball. Threw a lot of breaking balls for strikes, including the curveball, and managed the damage. Just keep the ball in the ballpark.
Swing and a miss by Pillar. Speaking of the ballpark, here in Toronto in 2 games, Tanaka 2-0 with a 1.69 ERA. Now the Yankees are 3-2, and they've done that on the backs of their offense and the bullpen. The starters have not really pulled their weight all that much. The Yankee starters ERA the first time through 6.41. Only the Red Sox have a worse ERA at 7.04 for their starters. So you can't keep turning the ball over to the bullpen in the 6th inning. So the Yankees have to improve on that the second time around. 1-2. He's faced the Blue Jays 7 times in his career, 5-2 with a 2.23. And last year he pitched against them 4 times, 2-2, 2.42. So he's always been very representative on the mound against a tough lineup.
Yeah, and it's you would theoretically think it's a good matchup because Toronto is such a good fastball hitting team, and Tanaka kind of pitching away from his fastball more and more recently.
Popped up. McCann will make the play for the first out. Why don't we check out the Yankees defense, which is presented as always by our good friends at Geico. In the outfield, you've got Gardner, Ellsbury, and Beltran left to right. In the infield, it's Headley, Gregorius, Castro, and Teixeira. That's third to first. McCann behind the plate, and Masahiro Tanaka is on the mound. Here's Josh Donaldson. 30-year-old reigning American League MVP. Originally a #1 supplemental pick by the Cubs in 2007. Used to be a catcher, then transitioned to the infield. 2-0. He's gotten off to a great start this year with 4 home runs and 9 ribbies. The 2-0. Tanaka turns his back on home plate, disgusted with himself on that pitch. Count 3-0.
That's the type of pitcher Tanaka really is. He's just not going to give in and throw a fastball. Threw a slider there, even though he didn't execute it very well.
Turned him loose on 3-0, and a high fly ball to right field. Beltran will put it away for the second out. So they're hoping to get a fastball he could jump on and hit a high fly ball to right.
Donaldson with a big swing. Just got under that one a bit. Just under it. Boy, that's the way you swing the bat. 3-0.
Here's Jose Bautista.
Blue Jay hitters, all these righties that you noted, Michael, in the pregame, they swing with bad intentions, like a Mike Tyson punch. They're looking to do damage.
People being very careful in the early going against Bautista. In 7 games, he has an on-base percentage of .500. So he will take his walk, and he'll pass the baton to Edwin Encarnacion on deck. He hurts the Yankees in 99 games against them. 31 homers and 64 ribbies. In fact, since 2010, he's had 28 home runs against the Yanks. Now, we have seen in games, the Yankees are shifting for Bautista, 3 infielders on the left side. He will occasionally take that base hit on the right side, and the Yankees will say, fine, we'll keep you in the ballpark that way. Just clipped the outside corner, 3-2. Bottom of the first inning. Yankees didn't score in the top. And here's the payoff. Nice catch by the ball boy down the right field line.
It's that running two-seam fastball we've seen from Tanaka. We talked about Bautista looking for something off speed. Barely fights that one off at 91 miles an hour.
Upstairs, so Bautista, his on-base percent is now over .500 as he takes a 2-out walk. And here is Encarnacion. Shift is on for the righty batter. And he swings through an off-speed pitch, count 0-1. 8 for 27 in the early going, 296 average. Both he and Bautista are free agents at the end of this year. Oh, 0-2. Good numbers against Tanaka. 7 for 14, 1 out of the yard, 2 ribbies, and 3 extra base hits. But he's down 0-2 in the count. And the 0-2. 1-2.
Tanaka at this point in his Yankee career feeling very comfortable calling his own game. Staring off McCann there to throw that splitter on an 0-2 pitch. McCann wanted the fastball away. So Tanaka much more in control of what he wants to throw now.
Inside with the fastball, 2-2. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Runner on, bottom of the first inning. The pitch. 3-2, so that's going to release Bautista at first. On deck, Tulowitzki.
See, even in the first inning, Michael, Tanaka pitching very carefully, trying to be as unpredictable as possible.
Runner goes. Missed inside. So 2 straight 2-out walks. First and second for Tulowitzki.
We talked about the inside corner being so important just around the edge there. Tanaka trying a front door slider. Start the pitch at Encarnacion and try to nip the inside corner if he could.
You know, David, I understand being careful. I really do. And against this lineup, you have to. But that translates into a 5-inning start because you're going to throw at least 20 pitches an inning, and then you're going to be at 100, and then you're going to be done.
That's what the Blue Jays offense can do to you. Push you out of the strike zone.
Blue Jays have seen 25.1 pitches in the first inning so far this year. Only the Nationals have seen more. And the Yankees are third on that list at 24.4. So now, with 1-0 to Tulowitzki, McCann goes out and talks.
One of the keys when you pitch backwards and mix up your pitches and throw more breaking balls than you do fastballs is that when you shoot for that inside corner, you got to hit it. You got to thread the needle. And he's had these Blue Jay hitters set up for a couple of called third strikes and just missed the inside corner.
Looking to make it 3-0, but swings and misses. Bautista off second. Encarnacion is off first. 1-2. Yankees have had 2 days off. Yesterday, a scheduled day off, and then Sunday, the game was rained out. So the bullpen is very well rested for this game. The 1-2. 2-2.
Exactly what you said, Michael. You're staring at a 30-pitch inning. But you take it to get out of this with no runs. Pitch the first inning almost like the 9th right here. And then try to make up for that in the middle innings. 1 pitch away from being out of this inning, 1 pitch away from being down 3-0.
Still 2-2. Along with David Cohn and Meredith Marakovitz, I'm Michael Kay. We thank you for joining us here on Yes, spending part of your Tuesday evening with us. Yankees and the Blue Jays, the beginning of a 3-game set battle in the American League East. Yankees did not score on the top of the first. Blue Jays threatening here on the bottom of the first. A couple of 2-out walks. Well, that gives the runners a break. They'll go on 3-2 with 2 outs. This is 3rd full count here in the first inning.
Has had hitters set up for fastballs to finish. Just can't quite thread the needle. Once again there, he had Tulowitzki set up for an outside fastball. Just couldn't find the corner.
Three-two. Swing and a miss. Got him. Damn it. So he escapes the jam. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 2 men left on base as Tulowitzki strikes out. We go to the second. by GMC. We are professional grade. Learn more at gmc.com. By People's United Bank N.A., the way you bank, but way better. And by your Tri-Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Tri-Honda dealer for great deals on the 2016 models. Kind of an overcast day in Toronto, but we don't have to worry about that with the roof here in Rogers Center. We go to the second inning as Tanaka gets out of a jam, and Brian McCann will lead off against Aaron Sanchez. Pitches high, 1-0. These two teams played 19 times last year. Blue Jays won 13 of those games. And it seemed like toward the end of July, the Yankees had it all figured out. They led Baltimore by 7 and Toronto by 8. Then Toronto started making those deals. Price, Tulowitzki, the whole deal. By August 22nd, the lead had shrunk to a half game over Toronto. And then Toronto ended up winning the East by 6, and the Yankees won the wild card, one of the wild cards. Two. You see the Blue Jays scored 4.5 runs per game against the Yankees last year to 2.9, and they pitched better. And they out-homered the Yankees as well.
And of course, the GM who made all those trades is no longer here. McCann's going to take a walk there from Sanchez to lead it off here. But those trades electrified this city. Sellout crowds.
Now, it's interesting, David. The Blue Jays have sold out each of their last 15 home games and 22 of the last 23 home games. And tonight is not a sellout. Yankees in town, and it's not a sellout. Here's Carlos Beltran. And a strike. Carlos has gotten off to a nice start. 5 hits in 17 at-bats with 2 homers and 4 ribbies. Hit a home run on Saturday. He just crushed it in Detroit. Tap slowly. Back to Sanchez. He has one play. He makes it at first. Moving to second is McCann. Here's Chase Headley. Chase has just 1 hit and 12 at bats in the early going. He's got a runner in scoring position here in the second.
The Blue Jays believe that Sanchez can really evolve into a #1 type starter. Rotation, able to use all 4 of his pitches. Out of the bullpen last year, pretty much just a 2-pitch pitcher. 2-seamer and a curveball. That curveball you saw right there, clearly his second best pitch and his out pitch. It's a big breaking curveball. Almost 15 to 20 miles an hour off of his fastball.
We want to send lefties up against him. Last year, coming into this year, he faced 265 right-handed batters, and they had a 154 batting average against him without having a ball leave the park. So lefty's the way to go. It's not going to be easy for them, but he does kind of neutralize right-handed batters. Brio. 3-1 on Headley, and on deck is a right-handed batter, Starlin Castro. And he ends up walking Chase Headley. So 2 walks here this inning for Sanchez, and that'll bring up Castro. Castro's former teammate, Anthony Rizzo, paid a little homage to his former teammate, who he says had a great influence on him, because when he came up to bat the first time at Wrigley Field this year, he played Castro's walk-up music and the crowd went nuts. They always were energized last year when it came up, and Rizzo said, I'm probably just going to do it that one time, but if the fans want me to do it, I'll have it as my walk-up music all the time. Really talked very highly about Castro. And that one's thrown into center field. McCann will go to third. Moving to second is Headley. So Sanchez throws it away as they try to pick off McCann at second. That'll be an E1.
Well, they had McCann too. McCann was kind of flat-footed. A good throw would have been a close play. Might have had him. But Sanchez is wide right. Look at McCann, kind of flat-footed. Nowhere close with that throw, and double damage as both runners move up. I think Brian McCann, you know, you never. That's probably the last thing he's thinking is, what are you worried about me for out here? I'm a catcher.
Oh, nice pick by Russell Martin, saving a run. He saved at least 3 wild pitches, and it's only the second inning.
One of the only catchers in the game that's athletic enough to make these kinds of plays.
He actually played third against the Red Sox with Donaldson DHing. He is very athletic. Let's take a look at the Honda League leaders, and this is the RBI leaders. Josh Donaldson leads the league with 9, tied with Prince Fielder and Tyler White, and then you've got Starlin Castro and Brock Holt of the Red Sox tied at 8. And there's a couple of ribbies out there right now for Castro. Three and 0 with Gregorius on deck.
He's talking with the Blue Jays broadcasters, Pat Tabler and Buck Martinez. They could not believe how big Castro was in the batting cage today. Probably goes about 220. Strong. He put on quite a show during BP.
Pumped a fastball in there at 96 miles an hour.
When Castro first broke into the big leagues, he was probably about 165 pounds. Good contact hitter and a whiz at shortstop. Now, a legitimate power threat.
2 home runs so far this year with 8 runs batted in, as we showed you. Chopped to second with the infield back. That's going to score a run. So the 9th ribby for Castro. McCann crosses the plate. The Yankees have a 1-0 lead as Headley moves to third.
3-1 fastball, good spot from Sanchez. He got it away, so Castro couldn't quite lift it, but take the RBI and run.
Didi has 6 hits and 18 at bats so far this year. Runner at third base now, 2 outs. One and 0. One. Check the swing. 2-1. Surprised that Martin didn't ask for one of the base umpires to check. Take a look down at Marvin Hudson, but he just took the ball call.
What a difference a year makes. The bottom of the Yankees order in the production so far between Castro and Gregorius.
Grounded to second. Goins is there. He gets Didi, and that'll do it. But the Yankees get a run on no hits, 2 walks, and 1 man left on base. We go to the bottom of the second, 1-0 Yanks. Brought to you by Toyota. RAV4 Hybrid is the official hybrid vehicle of the Yankees. Tell us a memorable experience you have from catching a foul ball or a home run ball at an MLB game. Stephen Meyer, BR, said, Big Papi hits at me. I freeze. Dad dives in front of my face and catches it flush and palm. Sacrifice. I'm saved. Good dad. Follow Yes Network and tweet us your responses using hashtag Yankees RAV4 Hybrid to keep the conversation going. You ever catch a foul ball as a fan?
No, I never did. I had no attention span. I was down messing around, playing my own game. We used to play cup ball.
Which is?
It's like handball, and we get the old Pepsi cups and wad them up and make them hard and round into a ball-like spear, and then we go back in the back and use our hands. We'd use a popcorn box on our hand as a bat. We called it cup ball.
Wow.
Find a place to play anywhere.
Fouled away.
And this was at the games. I mean, we'd watch a lot of the game, but a lot of times you get antsy as a kid, you know.
Right.
You'd wander back in the back and find a little open area, and you'd make up your own little game. Pepsi cups and a popcorn box.
You probably did some of that when you played, when you weren't pitching.
Absolutely. The mind wanders. You just got to have action.
The 0-2. Missed outside. One nothing Yankees, bottom of the second inning. Tanaka deals the 1-2. 2-2. Really working the edges. He's not giving much over the 17 inches of the plate. And if you're not going to chase, he's going to go 3-2 on you. Missed again, 3-2. Walked 2 batters in the first inning. Got Tulowitzki on a strikeout to end the inning. Colabello 1 hit and 12 at bats so far this year. And a walk.
Almost see a rare show of emotion from Tanaka, yelling at himself on the mound after that walk.
Well, normal rest was Sunday. So that passed, Monday passed, and as Meredith said, he has good numbers working on 6 days rest, but sometimes you do lose your command a bit. Here's Michael Saunders.
One of the things you also have to understand about Tanaka's style, and groomed in Japan, obviously, and the way he threw over there, you pitched once a week. So he's used to an extra day of rest compared to the American League style. But also with that extra day of rest, he could throw more pitches. So if you pitch like this, you're going to need 125 pitches. And the problem is you're not going to get it over here. And that's the way he was conditioned. That's the way I used to pitch. If you remember, Michael, I had no problem throwing 130 pitches and running deep counts and being very careful, especially on days when you weren't real sharp. I don't think the Yankees are going to allow Tanaka to throw that many pitches, and that's kind of the way he was conditioned.
And also, although he's working on extra rest now, he'll have to pitch on normal rest because there's no off day through this weekend. Don't know if you had a chance today. A very interesting column by Tom Verducci in Sports Illustrated about the next wave of how to get an edge. And the Blue Jays organization feels that every edge that you could get from analytics, every team has that now. Every team knows every number and squeezes the most out of everything that they can. So now they're taking a more of a mental and a body approach, where they've hired people to tell the players when to eat, when to stretch, what's best for the body, what's best for the mind. One thing was shot down by the players, though, which is kind of funny. Their mental conditioning guy said, I really think that the team every day should eat breakfast at 9 a.m. And he said, no, we're not getting up at 9 a.m. to eat breakfast together. Strike three. Saunders down looking.
Tumbling splitter stays right in the zone. Saunders is locked up right there for a called third strike. 9 o'clock in the morning for breakfast?
Mm-hmm. That would have to be back end, right?
Yeah, I got no problem with that. Me and Boomer hitting the diner.
Here's Russell Martin. And the Yankees have been doing this for a while, but the Blue Jays are putting out certain things for spreads, and they're doing something smart as well, because you played the minors. The minors, it's junk food, whatever's cheapest, but they're trying to pass it down to all the kids that they get good nutrition as well. Probably not the same as the major leagues, but they don't want them eating burgers and, you know, chicken and fries and stuff like that. 1-1 now on Martin. See, David, you would have still be playing if you eaten better.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so sleeping until noon's not good.
I guess not.
Getting in at 4 in the morning is not good.
Well, David didn't get to bed really early before David Wells before the perfect game, from what I read. So,
well, it's very difficult to train for night games. It's just very difficult. It's very abnormal. It's one of the things the Yankees did this spring was have later start times in the morning. You know, we practice in spring training every morning, and then you got to have your body clock up at 7 o'clock at night. Very difficult to master.
1-2. Chop left side foul. Well, everybody's trying to get an edge, and that's how they're trying to get an edge now. Two and two on Martin, the 8th batter in the Blue Jays lineup. Pitch count 45 for Tanaka. Just got a piece to stay alive. Yankees got a run in the top of the inning on a ground out by Castro, his 9th ribby of the year. Two. Still 2 and 2.
We're down here at the bottom of the Blue Jay order. We're almost one time through the order, Michael, and I think you've noticed it and you've said it, is the approach of the Blue Jays has been kind of to spit on those off-speed pitches, really forcing Tanaka into these deep counts. And the adjustment on the fly for McCann and Tanaka is start threading the needle with that fastball, start crossing them up and go after him. You got to hit your spots, though. You got to hit that corner.
And you wonder, David, if he's kind of shy in doing that because he has a propensity to give up the home run. Because if you miss your spot with a fastball that's 91, it's going to go, especially in this park with these hitters.
Absolutely. Tanaka's very aware of that. He gave up 28 homers last year.
5 full counts for Tanaka. Time is called.
Anytime you see hitters being very selective and not swinging at very close off-speed pitches, you know the inside corner's open. And if you can throw your fastball there, you can get them frozen for called third strikes. And we talked about this in Detroit with their approach. And that's the read you try to get. Read the bat, make adjustments on the fly. What are the hitters doing? How quickly can you adjust on the mound? And behind the plate, for that matter, because it really is a team, McCann and Tanaka.
Still 3 and 2.
Russell Martin, 9 pitches, looking at number 10.
And the pitch. Swing and a miss. Got him. Got him with the fastball. 3rd strikeout for Tanaka. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball blackout, and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. So a 10-pitch at bat from Martin, 1 by Tanaka. Here's Ryan Goins. And a strike. The 0-1. 1-1 on Goins. Goins so far 6 hits and 21 at bats in the early going. That's good for 286, yet to drive in a run. Colabello held at first by Teixeira. Gregorius shades up the middle. Headley pulled off the line at third. And the count 1-2.
It's a lot easier to accept all these extra pitches in 3-2 counts if there's no damage. If you keep putting zeros on the board, then that's a trade-off that any pitcher would take.
1-2. Swing and a miss. Goins down on strikes. So Tanaka strikes out 3. Coming up for the Yankees, the top of the order, Ellsbury, Gardner, and Alex Rodriguez. Stay tuned. At Rogers Center, it's 1-0 Yankees. Tanaka strikes out 3 after the leadoff walk in the second. Ellsbury with an infield single leading off the game. Jumps on the first pitch and fouls it back. Sanchez beat out Gavin Floyd for a spot in the rotation, and it was a tough call for the Blue Jays because Sanchez really helped them in the bullpen last year. That one is chopped to short. Tulowitzki, 1 away.
Certainly understand the fact, as you mentioned, about Aaron Sanchez, Michael. Brett Gardner stepping in. 23 years old. You got a power right-handed arm. You're a #1 draft. Boy, you really want him to be a frontline starter if you can. Especially considering the fact you gave up Noah Syndergaard to get R.A. Dickey.
And Travis d'Arnaud. That's the big concern with the Blue Jays. They made a lot of deals where they traded away their future. Now they're going to have to reload their farm system. And as you mentioned, Alex Anthopoulos, the GM, decided to leave when they hired Mark Shapiro as a new president of the Blue Jays. So those deals for Tulowitzki and for Price, he gave up a lot of good young talent. And the window is kind of closing on the Blue Jays, at least this edition, because Bautista and Encarnacion both will be free agents at the end of this year. Two. And Bautista's already made it very, very clear he wants over $30 million a year. He said there will be no discount, anything like that. No negotiating. That's what I want. Now, he's a great player, but he's also 35.
That's the tough question, as you said, that the Blue Jays have moving forward. You're talking about since 2011, the two #1 home run hitters are back-to-back in their lineup. Bautista and Encarnacion.
3-2. Strike three. Gardner down looking. He is not enamored with that call.
Russell Martin setting up out there. Catching it out there. Looks like it just shaved the black.
Here's A-Rod. Donaldson deep at third, close to the line. Alex hit a line drive to right field in the first inning that was caught by Bautista. One and one.
Alex sitting dead red right there, and Sanchez pulls the string. Aaron Sanchez has never given up a home run in his young career to a right-handed batter. And this is an interesting matchup tonight for both guys.
Two. 97 miles an hour.
Russell Martin turning his head, jawing a little bit, letting home plate umpire know that he thought that this was there, even though he had to move across the plate to catch it. James Hoy behind home plate.
Swing and a miss. Powered by him. And he lets out a roar as the Yankees go down in order 1, 2, 3, and we go to the bottom of the third. 1-0 Bombers.
Rakovitz here with tonight's injury report, brought to you by Montefiore, doing more in state-of-the-art healthcare. Nick Rumbelow, who made 17 appearances with the Yankees in the big leagues last year, will undergo Tommy John surgery on Friday. He walked off the mound with the AAA team on Monday, shaking his arm, and you just knew it was not good. It was officially announced that Rumbelow will have that surgery today, and the Yankees really prided themselves on depth in the organization, especially when it came to the pitching staff. You remember that Scranton shuttle of a year ago. He was a part of it. Brian Mitchell was a part of it. Many others were a part of it that contributed to some Yankees wins in middle relief. And we know Brian Mitchell will miss at least 4 months. Now Nick Rumbelow done for the entire season, guys.
That's terrible news, and you hear so much of it with pitchers, and I know teams are trying to somehow find ways to prevent it, but it just keeps happening. See all the wires behind Meredith? She puts those in to get all the information from around a big league baseball. Every single game, she has those wires working. It's great. Count 0-2 on Pilar.
We got to turn her mic back on. She's got to come back at you here.
Well, I mean, I think it's great work that she's doing. No need to be defensive. Look at those wires.
Michael, those are actually plugged into the International League and Eastern League scoreboard, so I can find out what's going on in the minor leagues, which is how I knew about Nick Rumbelow.
There you go. As Pilar gets plunked on an 0-2 pitch.
This looks like an 82-mile-an-hour slider to me. Trying to throw it to the front door, and it just kind of helicoptered in there. Clearly off speed, looks like corkscrew spin. If you're going to get hit, nice little 82-mile-an-hour hanging slider is not a bad way to do it from Pilar's standpoint. Tanaka now another base runner.
Base hit. Into right center. Ellsbury comes up throwing. Pilar moves to third. And the Blue Jays have runners on first and third and nobody out.
First pitch fastball right there. We talked about how this team's a great fastball hitting team. Donaldson in particular. Up and out over the plate, jumps on it. Now that first hit batter on Pilar is going to cost him. And that's brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz dealers, our Yesmo.
There's Bautista. First and third, nobody out. 1-0. This is where Tanaka got very careful in the first inning. Walked Bautista, walked Encarnacion. Fly ball, center field, late jump by Ellsbury, and it gets by him and goes to the wall. 1 run scores. Donaldson rounds third. He will score. It's a 2-run double for Bautista, and Toronto takes a 2-1 lead. Second ball this year that Ellsbury has misjudged in center field.
You see him on the left side, a little bit of a frozen action and a little bit of a hesitation, although that ball was smoked off of Bautista's bat. So the first mistake is at home plate. And then Ellsbury, maybe with a good jump, would have gotten there. A little bit of a hesitation, Michael, you're right. First right off the bat and then almost in midstream. And the pitch is a hanger right there, a slider that Bautista muscles out to center field.
Here's Encarnacion with a runner on second, still nobody out. Fouled away. And out of play.
hitting Pilar to lead off this inning with an 0-2 pitch. Off speed nonetheless. Really has set this inning up. A huge mistake.
The 0-1. One and one.
See, Tanaka really tried to let that one go and then turn around and look up at the scoreboard to get the radar gun reading. Our gun had it at 92. The one here at Skydome had it at 91. I just revert back and call it Skydome every now and then, Michael. That's what it was when I was here. It was Skydome. It was a great name. I know, obviously, it's not technically called Skydome anymore.
It's Skydome in your heart.
Yes. This used to be home for me for about 6 weeks.
One-two, swing and a miss. They get Encarnacion. That's the 5th strikeout for Tanaka.
Probably the best splitter he's thrown tonight. Diving straight down over the heart of the plate. The Tanaka special. Been looking for that one.
Here's Troy Tulowitzki. Troy wears number 2 because he absolutely idolized Derek Jeter. When he was at the Rockies, he would talk about Jeter all the time, the way Jeter did things, and his Rocky teammates ended up presenting him with Derek's cologne Driven because they said, well, you should smell like him too.
Well, that's how I got my nickname George from the Mets. Because when I first got traded to the Mets, I was George Brett this, George Brett that. I tried to bat like him, my stance, and the Mets said, okay, George. Never lost it.
Yeah, Keith Hernandez still calls you George.
Yes, to this day.
(3-0) on Tulowitzki. Seventh 3-ball count for Tanaka. 2 runs in, runner at second with 1 out. There's a strike.
I think I would do it too if I were pitching nowadays, Michael. You see Tanaka immediately look up at the scoreboard, checking his velocity readings. It's kind of hard not to do it.
And a walk to Tulowitzki. 70 pitches with an out here in the 3rd, so he is pitching himself into a very short outing, not because of ineffectiveness, but simply that the pitch count monster is going to get him. And Larry Rothschild will come out and have a talk with Tanaka. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Yankees and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the New York Yankees. So Larry brings out Tanaka's translator, so nothing is lost. So as Shingo tells Tanaka what Larry said, the Yankee bullpen gets busy. Johnny Barbado. So first and second, one man out. Here is Colabello. Let's see if they turn two. There's one. And there's two. Just what he needed. A 6-4-3 double play. Good concentration by Gregorius to catch that ball as Bautista cut right in front of him. But the Blue Jays score two to take the lead. This Sunday, April 17th, when the Yankees take on the Mariners. It's calendar day, and all guests in attendance are going to receive a 2016 Yankees calendar courtesy of MasterCard. For tickets, log on to Yankees.com, visit the Yankee Stadium ticket window, Yankees clubhouse shops, or call Ticketmaster at 877-469-9849. Mark Teixeira leads off the fourth, takes a pitch outside, 1-0. Blue Jays lead 2-1 on the Audi scoreboard. Fouled away. 1-1.
Tanaka had the lowest whip of any American League starter last year. Minimum 150 innings pitch, has 4 walks tonight.
One's popped up. One away.
That's how you have a 2-1 game with only 3 hits. And we're at 8:30 almost, 8:22 up here in Toronto. So almost an hour and a half into this game. A lot of 3-ball counts, a lot of walks. Sanchez with 2 walks as well.
Strike to McCann. McCann walked in the second inning. Oh, and 2. Swing and a miss. Chased the fastball out of the zone. 2 away.
95 miles an hour down and away at the knees always works. Loud sound hitting the mitt too.
There's Beltran. Sanchez works quickly. Yankees got their run in the second. A walk to McCann. One out, then a walk to Headley. Then they tried to pick off McCann at second, and Sanchez threw it into center field. That put runners on second and third. Blue Jays kept the infield back. Castro hit a ground ball to Goins, and that scored McCann. Yankees had a 1-0 lead, but then a 2-run double by Bautista in the bottom of the third put Toronto up 2-1. 3-1. 3-2. And Beltran works a walk. Third walk by Sanchez.
You mentioned that Sanchez just 23 years old. Boy, he looks the part. Baby face. Big right arm, though.
34th player taken in the 2010 draft. There's a ground ball into short right field. And a nice play to get Headley for the final out of the fourth. No runs, no hits, no errors, and one man left on base. We go to the bottom of the fourth inning. It's 2-1 Jays. Is brought to you by Coors Banquet. Go back to this date, 1993. Paul O'Neill made his Yankee Stadium debut, and boy, he played Broadway well. 4 for 4 with 2 ribbies. He fell a home run short of the cycle. And when it was all said and done with Paul O'Neill, he had 4 championship rings with the Yankees to go along with the one that he had with the Reds. Pretty good trade for the Yanks. Pitch outside to Michael Saunders. As we start at the bottom of the fourth on the Audi scoreboard, it's 2-1 Toronto.
Yeah, that would have been me that gave up those 4 hits, by the way.
We'll try to dig up some video evidence of that.
I hated him, Paul O'Neill. You know, I loved him as a teammate, but on the other side, I hated him.
Ground ball to Teixeira. Flipped to Tanaka. 1 away. So let's see if you really were the guy who gave up those hits. Oh, yeah, there you are.
Yeah, look at where are you playing? Where's he playing? Way out of position. Nice mullet, Paulie. No, that's legit. That was drilled in the gap.
And a couple of years later, you'd be his teammate.
Yeah, he was a great teammate.
There's Russell Martin. We'll see Paul on the next homestand. Makes his 2016 debut. Driven into right center field, long run, and caught by Beltran as he cuts in front of Ellsbury for the second out. Good jump by Beltran.
Absolutely, Beltran moving well. Got a good read on this. Ellsbury was there, ready for the play. Beltran right in front. Is that fly ball hung up there just a bit? Tanaka, 2 quick outs here, right on time, and sorely in need of a 1-2-3 inning.
Goins fouls it off. Chopped to short. Nice hop there for Gregorius, and he fires to Teixeira for the final out of a 1-2-3 inning. Just 7 pitches. Tanaka really needed that. We go to the 5th. Amazing. A lot of people pick the Orioles to finish last in the American League East. Now, doesn't mean 6-0 means that you won't, but off to a much better start than people thought.
Yeah, nobody saw that one coming at all.
At the end of the last half inning, Tanaka waited for the outfielders to say thanks a lot. He needed that 7-pitch inning in a big, big way. Here's Sterling Castro. He is driven in the Yankees' only run with a ground ball in the 2nd. His 9th ribby of the year. Cadillac scoreboard 2-1 Toronto leads. High fly ball, right field, Bautista. One down. And here's Gregorius, grounded to second in the second. Gregorius is one of the few Yankee players that defenses have to kind of play him honest. Not any drastic shift. He does go line to line. Third baseman Donaldson is off the line, but at least he's on the left side of the infield. Outfield, they shade him slightly toward left center.
Pretty close to as straight up as it gets.
And that's why, as he laces one into left center field, and it is a base hit. Saunders cuts it off. Going for two is Didi, and he makes it. Thinking double out of the box, and he got it. Putting pressure on the defense.
Well, you called it, Michael. That is exactly right. Good hitting right out of the box. Didi, no hesitation. Saunders wheeling and dealing and wide right. Here's another look. Good cut of first base, too. Straight down the line and a quick cut.
All right, so a runner in scoring position. Top of the Yankee order now, Ellsbury with one out. That's the Yankees' second hit. Ellsbury fouls it back. Ellsbury, ground ball up the middle, stopped by Tulowitzki. A single in the first, then grounded to short in the third.
Hard to teach that natural life that Sanchez has on his fastball. Locking up Ellsbury on the inside corner.
And Ellsbury swings over the top for the second out. Comcast dropped the Yes Network. Comcast customers will miss the entire Yankee season on Yes. There are other TV providers that carry Yes, including DirecTV, Frontier, PlayStation Vue, and Verizon Fios. Don't miss any Yankees games on Yes. For more information, go to keepyesnetwork.com. Here's Brett Gardner. He's 0 for 2 tonight. Fastball just misses. Sanchez stares in. Martin held it for a while. Gardner back to Sanchez and struck out looking, so he's 0 for 2.
Potential momentum swinger here for the Yankees and Brett Gardner with Alex Rodriguez on deck. 2 out RBIs are killers.
Grounded up the middle, grabbed there by Goins, and he gets Gardner, and the Yankees waste a double by Gregorius. No run to hit. One man left at the end of 4.5. We're halfway through. It's 2-1 Toronto.
Night after the postgame, catch an all-new episode of Center Stage with Michael Kay, presented by your Tri-State Land Rover retailers, as WWE superstar and actor John Cena sits down for a revealing look at his life and career. Don't miss the premiere tonight after the postgame, only on Yes.
Pilar wraps one to center field. It's going to dunk in there for a base hit. So a leadoff single for Kevin Pilar. And that's going to bring up Josh Donaldson, and we'll take a look at the Jeep hitter scouting report for Josh Donaldson.
Well, yes, I mean, everybody knows, and if you don't, now you do. He was the MVP last year in 2015, and he has picked it up right where he left off. He's already got 4 home runs this year, and if you remember last year in that MVP season, he had 41 doubles and 41 homers and 2 triples for a total of 84 extra base hits. That led the major leagues, and as we said before, like a lot of these Blue Jay hitters, he absolutely kills fastballs.
Blue Jays avoided the final 2 arbitration years with Donaldson. They signed him to a 2-year, $28.65 million contract. Cadillac scoreboard 2-1 Toronto over the Yanks. We're in the bottom of the 5th, 2-1 Yankees. The single by Pilar. 3rd hit by the Blue Jays. 7-pitch 4th inning. Kind of got the pitch count a bit under control for Tanaka. Popped up. Headley toward the seats. Couple rows back. Pretty impressive resume for Josh Donaldson. 6 big league season. He was the first round draft pick, 48th overall comp pick for the Cubs in 07. Won the MVP last year with David Dittell, 2-time All-Star. And he became the 2nd MVP in Blue Jays history. George Bell the other. And Bell did it in 1987. Grounded to 3rd. There's one. And the throw is over the head of Teixeira, bounces into the seats. Pilar went in hard and disrupted Castro, threw it over the head of Teixeira.
Well, it seems like you got to take a second look at every slide at second base with the rules change. But Pilar is right there, very legal. Castro tries to come down sidewinding style and just can't quite get the handle on it, and also gets inhibited because Pilar comes up. So Castro probably better off staying over the top, as Pilar was too much on top of him to use that method of get him down by going down.
So it's a fielder's choice, E4 on the throw as Donaldson moves to second. Here's Bautista with first base open. 2-1 Toronto.
That particular play for a second baseman, especially a guy like Castro, who's a converted shortstop, the toughest one. Your back's to the runner. Usually as a shortstop, everything's in front of you. You see everything unfolding. From the second base position there, receiving the throw from the shortstop, you're hearing footsteps. You're in a blind spot.
Chopped slowly up the 3rd baseline. It's a foul ball and also a broken bat. Bautista, born in the Dominican Republic, but actually played baseball for a junior college team in Florida, Chipola, and was teammates with Russell Martin on that team. So reunited here in Toronto. Grounded softly to Castro. He gets Bautista as Donaldson moves to third.
We'll go quick pitch by pitch. Tanaka all of a sudden starting to dial in that splitter. 2 in a row, got Bautista out in front. And then that one looked like more slider-like action. But all of them much better quality pitches and more in the strike zone to entice the Blue Jay hitters to swing the bat, as opposed to the first couple of innings when he had 4 walks.
Here's Encarnacion. I got a piece of McCann.
It looks like Tanaka's just rearing back and throwing his best splitters. It's about 5 in a row, and the velocity's up on them. 88 miles an hour now. And down on McCann's left foot here, as you'll see. Encarnacion out in front and straight down. Wonder why it's so hard for a catcher to be a good offensive player. Continually getting beat up. Foul tips off their arms, their feet, their toe. Throughout the course of a major league season. A lot to contend with.
Donaldson being very aggressive at third, trying to distract Tanaka, and with Headley well off the bag, he's got some maneuverability down there. One, two. That's the pitch by inning. 29 in the first, 25 in the second. So trying to bounce back from that.
If he gets this out, he's got a chance to go out for the 6th and get through 6.
Two.
A really good take there from Encarnacion. Obviously looking for that splitter. Tanaka threw him his best right over the plate. Encarnacion spit on it.
8th 3-ball count for Tanaka. Sanchez has 7 3-ball counts. 3-2. Swing and a miss. Got him. Big strikeout for Tanaka. No runs, a hit, 1 error, 1 man left. 5 in the books. 2-1 Blue Jays. These replays brought to you by New York Presbyterian, the official hospital of the New York Yankees. Amazing things are happening here at the strikeout of Encarnacion.
A lot of emotion on that 3-2 slider. Tanaka, a frustrating night. Trying to fight his way back into this game. Still, just a 2-1 ball game.
A-Rod takes outside, and he comes off the mound with 92 pitches, and there's action in the Yankee bullpen, so he's probably not pitching the sixth. GMC scoreboard 2-1 Toronto. 1-1 on A-Rod. Johnny Barbado again was up earlier. Line to right field. Bautista puts it away. Second time tonight, A-Rod's hit it hard to right, but right at Bautista. Count 0-1 on Teixeira. 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a pop to third. Your thoughts on Sanchez, David?
With no doubt the stuff is there. He's kind of a typical young pitcher in the regard that if you get him in the stretch and put a little heat on him, it looks like he starts to rush a little bit. You can kind of rattle him a bit. It's just inexperience. That's to be expected. But if you allow him to get into a groove with his windup, well, he's tough. Mid-90s fastball, a really good curveball. At times he's shown a good changeup to go with that.
That got a piece of Martin. So both catchers taking a beating, and the count 3-2.
Not a lot of good swings off of Sanchez, as he's been kind of conveniently wild too, as you see his pitch count creep up here towards 90, probably in his last inning of work as well. It'll be interesting to see how the Blue Jays deal with Sanchez this year. He threw just 92 innings last year.
Grounded, back to Sanchez. Well, most teams only like to progress 40 innings from the year before, so that doesn't really give you 32 starts by any stretch of the imagination.
Sanchez has always produced a lot of ground balls, almost at a 2-to-1 clip in his career because of that natural life, sinking life to his fastball.
Blue Jays carry 7 pitchers in the bullpen, 6 righties and 1 lefty. Toronto's pen last year was a problem. Only converted on 60.7% of save opportunities, 4th worst in Major League Baseball. And they still won the American League East. But we can all agree that they kind of rode the offense to that division title.
An electrifying run for the Blue Jays in the second half of the year, along with David Price at the top of the rotation.
3-2 to McCann. 7th full count for Sanchez. Blue Jays manager John Gibbons. 3-2. That one is drilled to right field. There it goes. See ya. Tie game. A long home run by Brian McCann. Guess his foot's not hurting that much now.
He got his foot down and got the bat through the zone, and on a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs, Sanchez's 94th pitch is right there. inner half, right where Brian McCann likes it. And he does not miss it.
Beltran takes low, so the game is knotted at 2.
Really the first good swing all night for the Yankee lineup. Gregorius had a line drive double to left, more of a leg double. That is how it's done.
Chop to first. Colabello takes it himself, and that will do it. But the Yankees tie the score on Brian McCann's long home run. When it lands, it's Yankees 2, Blue Jays 2. Yankees Baseball on Yes is brought to you in part by your Tri-State BMW Centers and by Heineken. Open your world. All right, so Brian McCann's home run has tied the game at 2 as we go to the bottom of the 6th, and Joe Girardi makes the Verizon call to the bullpen, and it brings on Johnny Barbado. Who's carving out a nice spot for himself in the bullpen.
No doubt about it. Johnny Barbado has been impressive from spring training on. And Joe Girardi is developing confidence in him and certainly presenting him with a golden opportunity. There's usually one go-to guy that you look for. Somebody that's clearly a reliever, and you see on the season the 5 strikeouts and no walks. Impressive. When you look at some of the other relievers, including Ivan Nova and Luis Cessa, they're more starter longman guys. Johnny Barbado can be an every other day guy.
2-1 on Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki, Colabello, and Saunders. Foul back here and out of play.
Aaron Sanchez. One pitch away from being out of that start with the lead, and Brian McCann making him daydream and think about it with a little regret. Ground ball to third. 1 down.
Now they are taking a look at Brian McCann because he's walking very slowly after backing up first base. So that foul ball on his foot is still bothering him despite hitting the home run. You're going to have to really convince him to come out of a game, but they noticed as he was walking back from backing up that he was walking very slowly. So he's going to stay in.
Well, of course, that's his decision. Certainly bears watching the rest of the game. Wouldn't be surprised to see them get an x-ray after the game just to make sure.
There's a strike to Colabello. Colabello walked and wrapped into a double play.
It's pretty hard to hide behind the plate as a catcher if you're injured. It will present itself, and that foul ball down on off of his foot. Be pretty hard to squat if there was something serious.
Good breaking ball strike. That was before the home run, and you can see grabs that left foot. But then on the next pitch, he hits it a long way. Grounded to first. Teixeira will take it himself. 2 down.
Tony Pena with a close eye on McCann as he knows what to look for. So he had a few of those during his career. Talking to the trainer.
Here's Saunders. 0 for 2 tonight against Tanaka. So once again, the 6th game of the year, and CC is the only Yankee pitcher to get through 6 innings. Actually pitched into the 7th.
Not really surprising. It's been a trend that we've seen Joe Girardi use over the last several years. Very few starters are allowed to go beyond 100 pitches. And it's really more than just a pitch count. It was the laboring, too, from Tanaka. Even though it looked like the last couple of innings he was starting to right the ship. But the first 3 innings were so laborious for Tanaka that Girardi feeling that took a lot out of him.
So Saunders works a 4-pitch walk with 2 outs. And that brings up Russell Martin. On 1.
.96 miles an hour from Barbado, up and in. Beating Russell Martin with the first pitch. impressive part about Barbado is a couple of different breaking balls. A hard slider in the upper 80s and that curveball that you just saw. Kind of rare for a reliever to have two different quality breaking balls to work with, along with a mid-90s fastball. It's a question of reps and experience. The stuff is there.
Grounded to third. Headley fires across the diamond, and that'll do it. Barbado with a scoreless sixth inning. The Blue Jays lead 1. We're going to the 7th. It's a 2-2 game. Well, those were the thrilling moments of the game, brought to you by Pepsi. Pepsi is giving you a chance to earn your pinstripes. Visit Yankees.com/Pepsi Pinstripes for more details. Still checking on Brian McCann. Headley rips one to left field. A base hit against Brett Cecil, who has come on in relief. So the lone left-hander comes in to start in the 7th. Three games so far this year. 0 for 2 in save opportunities. Now, it's not the closer, but you can have a save opportunity in the 7th inning and give up the lead. So that's considered a blown save. Bounced up there to Castro.
See another block from Russell Martin. And not an easy one. This one's in front of home plate, and that rode up almost under his chin. It's another reason why the Yankees are so anxious to get Starlin Castro is these situations. The Yankees felt like they were too left-handed dominant last year with Stephen Drew. Castro provides some right-handed, much-needed right-handed pop. Even batting at the bottom of the order. Much more balance now with Castro in the lineup.
All right, David, let's manage. Gregorius, do you have him bunt?
Yes, with no outs, I think bunt is a run positive situation here late in the game. It's not just a man on first, it's first and second.
Pete Walker, the pitching coach, is talking about stuff along those lines. Time for the game summary brought to you by your local Nissan dealer. Yankees have 4 hits, the Blue Jays 3, each team with an error. Both starting pitchers out of the game. Bautista, 2-run double in the 3rd inning for the Blue Jays. That's their offense. McCann, a solo home run on the 6th, and Castro, a ground ball on the 2nd. That's the Yankees scoring. Yankees 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Let's see if Gregorius actually bunts. They are expecting it. They're in at the corners. Pitch is low. Now, obviously, he'd like to bunt toward third base. You make Donaldson field the ball, and then the runner will get to third. If you bunt toward Colabello, there's a chance you can get the force because Headley's not that fast.
Exactly, and be on guard for the wheel play, too, where Donaldson charges hard and Tulowitzki races to third. But first and second, nobody out late in the game with the Yankee bullpen. It's a good play.
And he does bunt it right to Donaldson. Good job by Gregorius. The sacrifice is successful. You score at 5-4. The runners move up.
Mission accomplished, Michael. You're exactly right. It doesn't matter how hard it's bunted, really. You just have to make Donaldson field that ball because third base is thus vacated. And Headley can walk to third base.
Now the infield is in with Ellsbury at the plate. Ellsbury's 1 for 3. 2-2 game in the 7th. There's a strike from Cecil. Jesse Chavez is warming in the bullpen for the Blue Jays. He'd come in to face A-Rod. But Ellsbury and Gardner, 2 lefty batters. The 0-1. Now an interesting move by Girardi is if Ellsbury gets on, would he pinch hit Aaron Hicks for Gardner and force the hand of John Gibbons? Gardner usually does not get pinch hit for. Ellsbury 6 for 25 against Cecil in his career.
Good job. Good take right there by Ellsbury to get into a fastball count here. Not biting on the Cecil slider. The best pitch from Cecil is that slider. He's been devastating with that over the last couple of years. We'll throw it any time.
Three and one.
Another good read from Ellsbury. First base is open. Cecil's not going to give in.
Headley's at third. Castro's at second. We're in the 7th. It's a 2-2 game. There's a strike. Ellsbury thought it was ball 4.
Martin setting up way away and has to reach all the way over and up on the inside corner.
Almost had a lunge. That one is looped into shallow left field. It's going to dunk in for a base hit. Headley will score. Castro moves to third. It's an RBI single for Ellsbury, and the Yankees take a 3-2 lead.
Wow. Jacoby Ellsbury almost takes this out of the glove. Talk about late swings, just fighting it off. Gets the job done as Headley can just cruise home once that ball reaches the outfield grass.
And that's a product of the infield in. Infield is at normal depth. That's probably caught. So here is Gardner. Let's see if Ellsbury goes. Might keep him anchored there because there's just one out. Gardner could get the ball in the air and score. Castro tries to bunt, fouls it off.
Safety squeeze right there. The old Don Zemmer play. Gardner gets that down the first base line with Colabello holding on Ellsbury. That's an easy RBI. Difference between a safety squeeze and a suicide squeeze. The runner at third stays on a safety squeeze. The suicide squeeze, the runner gives himself up and goes right away.
On every pitch, Donaldson darts toward third base as if Cecil might throw over there to get Castro. One and two, so the Yankees lead 3-2. A run in the sixth on the McCann home run. A run here in the seventh on the Bloop single over a drawn-in infield by Ellsbury. And A-Rod's on deck with Gardner at the plate. First and third. Chavez is ready.
So far, Ellsbury hanging in there.
There he goes. Swing and a miss, no throw. So a stolen base for Ellsbury as Gardner strikes out. He's 0 for 4 tonight. And that will do it for Cecil as they'll bring in Chavez to face A-Rod. John Gibbons makes the walk to the mound. So runners on second and third for the Yankees with 2 outs, looking for a little insurance for their bullpen. This is not cable. We're wired differently. Go to getfios.com. Today you saw Michael Pineda sitting in the dugout. Tomorrow night he'll be on the mound. He got a win despite struggling in his start against the Astros. He'll face Jay Happ, free agent signee for the Blue Jays. Our coverage begins at 6 p.m. on Yes. First pitch should be right around 7:08, 7:09. So Jesse Chavez will face Alex Rodriguez. A big spot in this game to give your bullpen some breathing room against a tough lineup. This is the 4th game for Chavez. Castro at 3rd. Ellsbury is at 2nd. And Chavez wants to talk to Martin. I've always wondered about this, David. You were just on the mound together. Wouldn't they have come up with the first pitch?
Obviously, they forgot about it. Guarding against all the lip readers in the house, just in case, with the gloves in front of their face.
Alex is 0 for 3 with 2 line drives to right, sandwiched around a strikeout. One and 0.
I thought the Gardner safety squeeze was a good play if he could have got that down, or maybe even taken another shot.
Line drive right at Goins. So A-Rod hit it hard, but right at the second baseman. But the Yankees build a run to take the lead. Headley picks up a single left. Then a walk to Castro. A sacrifice moves them up. And a little blooper over John in infield gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead. Barbato did his job in the 6th. Right now he's lined up to get the victory, but the Yankees have to get 9 more outs out of that bullpen. It's set up with Shreve, then Betances, and then Miller. 4th game of the year for Shreve. 2 2/3, 1 hit. He had a great spring training, and he's trying to make that final month of last year an aberration because he was so good before that. He'll face Ryan Goins here in the bottom of the 7th. The Yankees up 3-2. Swings at the first pitch, Goins does, and pops it up. Gregorius calls everybody off and makes the play for the first out. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Gregorius leaving no doubt. Who's in charge on this infield? Watch Gregorius demonstratively and very loudly.
Here's Kevin Pillar. And there's a strike to Pillar. Pillar was hit by a pitch. What was it, 0-2? An 0-2 count to start up the third inning, and that's how that inning unfolded to where the Blue Jays got the 2 runs on the Bautista double.
Yes, up ahead 0-2 on Pillar, hits him with a hanging slider, and then Donaldson, first pitch swinging on a fastball, lines it to right. As you see Drew Storen, the former Washington National, warming up. That little sequence there from the hit batter for Tanaka, and then Donaldson really shook Tanaka at first and third and just kept him on a tentative route. But finished with 2 scoreless innings.
2-2 on Pillar.
And would have, I'm sure, if you talk to Tanaka, as you see Dellin Betances now getting going, Tanaka would have loved to come out and pitch that 6th inning. He had 92 pitches, but obviously it's an organizational decision along with a managerial decision. Joe Girardi's just not going to let him do it. He's going to protect his pitchers through limiting the pitch count.
Line drive. Oh, what a play by Headley, taking a base hit away from Pillar.
Wow, this is a rocket. Shades of Greg Nettles. Quick as a cat.
Here's Donaldson. Headley deep at third, close to the line. Pitch up and away, 1-0.
It was really Josh Donaldson and once again Mike Trout for the MVP last year. As it seems to be Mike Trout and somebody every year. And a lot of people thought Mike Trout should have won it again last year. And that's not taking anything away from the year Josh Donaldson had. As we mentioned before, very rarely do you see that kind of extra base prowess. 41 doubles and 41 homers.
One and 2 on Donaldson.
Pretty good base runner and pretty good defender as well.
Really makes the A's decision to trade him all the more curious. I just remember standing behind the batting cage when Donaldson was with the A's taking ground balls, and Joe Girardi doesn't usually say stuff like this, that man, that guy can play. And he's proven it. He can play.
See that trade, and of course Josh Donaldson, young in his career, even though 4 players were acquired in his trade, contractually speaking, he only made a little over $4 million last year for that monster MVP season he had. And this year slated to make, I think, 11, a little over 11. As Michael mentioned before, a 2-year extension.
2 years, 28 mil.
He'll make 17 million next year, but still undervalued for that type of production in today's game.
3-2. Well, that's a walk, a dangerous walk, because now you have to face Jose Bautista. And will Shreve face him, or will they go to Betances to get 4 outs? Looks like they're going to stick with Shreve. He's confident with Shreve against right-handed batters, but not that confident now. So Girardi will bring on Dellin Betances. He needs him to get Bautista and then 3 outs in the 8th.
In a third, Bautista lashes a line drive that Jacoby Ellsbury had a hard time corralling. And then, of course, that gave it a 2-1 lead. And then McCann, a big blast on a 3-2 pitch, got it knotted up at 2. And then Jacoby Ellsbury takes it out of the catcher's mitt. A little blooper to the left, gave the Yankees the lead as Chase Headley scored. And that's where it stands now for this big matchup. Yankees up 3-2.
And this is a power matchup. Guy who sometimes throws 100 miles an hour and a guy who redirects fastballs into the outer reaches of a ballpark. So this is the 4th game for Betances. 6 strikeouts in 2 2/3 innings. He's walked 2. And power against power. Betances against Bautista. And McCann goes out and talks with his 6'8" right-hander. Bautista walked, 2-run double, and a ground ball to second. There's some history here, and it's not good for the Yankees. 3 for 7 against Betances, a home run, a ribby, in all 2 extra base hits. So Donaldson with the walk. 2 outs. Betances deals. Betances' most effective pitch in the early going is his breaking ball. And you see he goes to it early. The fastball, he does not seem as if he's commanding it as well as he eventually will.
It's pretty much a 50-50 split in pitch allocation for Betances.
Another breaking ball. 2-0.
Would not be surprised to see another one here on 2-0.
Goes with the fastball. Whispers across the outside corner. 2-1.
He really got it in a good spot. Down and away. On a 2-0 pitch, that's just perfect. As Bautista can do nothing with it.
Runner goes. 2-1. No throw, stolen base for Donaldson. And the pitch was out of the zone, 3-1.
Nothing McCann can do, as you see. Betances with the long delivery and a high leg kick. Donaldson taking advantage. Dellin Betances can do a lot of things with a baseball in his hand, but holding runners on is not one of them.
3-2. What do you throw here?
Once again, just dot that outside corner, maybe just a hair off, but a good pitch.
3-2. He threw him the hook, and he froze him as Bautista down on strikes. No runs, no hits, no errors, one man left. Betances gets the tough Bautista as we go to the 8th. With a big strikeout of Jose Bautista, ends the bottom of the 7th. Mark Teixeira leads off the 8th. Swings at the first pitch from Chavez. And for the first out.
Well, these kind of at-bats are worth the price of admission. Power on power. Coming out, hook in the dirt. McCann blocks it. Another hook down. 2-0. Big fastball. Perfectly located down and away. Another hook down. No chance. Stolen base. Paint again. And lock him up with a nasty hook.
Strike to McCann from Chavez.
Bautista just completely locked up by the Betances breaking ball.
Nice piece of hitting there by McCann as he picks up a single the other way. So he is 2 for 3 with a walk and 2 runs scored.
It looked like McCann was taking a shot that way, going for a shift beater. And certainly favoring that foot that took a nasty foul tip earlier in the game.
Pitch to Beltran, low and away, 1-0. Carlos tonight is 0 for 2 with a walk. Hyundai scoreboard shows he's up 3-2, top 8. Waved at that one.
Chavez, potentially a very valuable piece for the Blue Jay pitching staff, can start or relieve. Veteran, really knows how to pitch. Does a little bit of everything. Got all the tricks of the trade. He can cut it, he can sink it, good changeup, slider.
So the count full.
Chase Headley's had a nice game.
Swing and a miss. Chased outside. 2 outs. And that'll bring up Headley.
See Chavez right off of the outside cutter. Runs this one off. Running two-seamer. Really made Beltran look bad in this at-bat.
Headley 1 for 2 with a walk. Scored a run. Beautiful play in the field. One and 0. Two through 5. And the Blue Jay order is a killer. So they've taken 2 of them off the board. And now Betances going to have to deal with Encarnacion and Tulowitzki in the 8th. And after that, Colabello. And that's a perfect example of when people say sometimes you get your save in the 7th or the 8th inning because that's the toughest stretch you'll face. So if nobody reaches, Miller could come on and face the bottom of the order in the 9th inning. But you've gotten past Donaldson now and Bautista, and you still have the lead.
If you can look on down the road a little bit when Aroldis Chapman comes back from his suspension, the Yankees can shorten the game even more. Betances would come into that game a little earlier than he already did. Gonna have to wait about 24 more games for that. Chavez frustrated with the strike zone here, along with Russell Martin. Exactly, Russell Martin, very demonstrative.
3-2.
And looking back, clearly showing up home plate umpire James Hoy at this point. Coming off the heels of Betances getting a couple of borderline calls last inning to get Bautista in a big spot.
Jay's pitching 10 full counts. Line drive, base hit to left center field. Cutting over Saunders. McCann will go to third. He'll stop right there as he kind of gingerly tiptoes into third. And another base hit for Headley, his 2nd of the night.
Doing it both ways, Chase Headley is. Great defense, and now he has a hit from both sides of the plate. McCann, yes, you're going to have to hump to go first to third. And a soft landing spot.
Here's Castro, 0 for 2 with a walk, an RBI groundout, his 9th ribby of the year. 1-0. Line foul. Joe Biagini warming for the Blue Jays. Misses inside.
Anytime you see a catcher hold that pitch there a couple of extra beats, trying to send a message.
2-2. Still 2-2. McCann's at third, Headley's at first. 2 men out in the top of the 8th. Yankees lead 3-2. Crowd making some noise, a little extracurricular activity in the stands. Two-two. Spoiled that one. Two balls, two strikes, two outs, 2 on, 3-2 Yankees lead. Castro lines one down the left field line, but it hooked foul. A little bit too quick on the off-speed pitch.
Castro's a tough out right now as Chavez has thrown him everything he has in his arsenal.
Pop foul down the right field line. Long run for everybody. Colabello can't make the play, and Goins couldn't get there.
Covering a lot of ground, and he did get there, but at the last minute kind of lost it and shied away. Definitely a little gator arm there as he seemed to lose it at the last minute. Looked like he was going to get there. Covered a lot of ground. Castro with new life.
Really battling. And the 2-2. Swing and a miss. Chase the pitch out of the zone. And that'll do it. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 men left. We take it to the bottom of the 8th. Yankees leading this one 3-2. On yes as the Bombers take on the Blue Jays in Game 2 from here in Toronto. Our coverage will start at 6 with Audi batting practice today and the Chevy pregame show with first pitch shortly after 7 only on yes. Betances got the final out of the 7th, freezing Bautista with a breaking ball and the tying run at second base. Now Encarnacion leads off the 8th on the Hyundai scoreboard. 3-2 Yankees lead. 1-0. Aaron Hicks takes over for Beltran in right field, tightening up the defense. And a strike. Three infielders on the left side. Two and one.
Yankee bullpen came into this game leading Major League Baseball with the lowest 1.04 ERA in this short season. Going to take 4 scoreless to close this one out from the bullpen.
Fouled away. Also coming in, they had 27 strikeouts in 17 1/3 innings. So they've added 1 more strikeout to that total in a couple of innings. Andrew Miller is getting ready.
Very similar to last year. Very strong bullpen for the Yankees and kind of an all or nothing offense so far.
Floyd and Osuna up in the bullpen for Toronto. Tulowitzki on deck.
Your point is well taken, Michael, as you see the Blue Jays double barrel action. These are the toughest outs.
Popped him up. Long run for Teixeira. Makes the play in foul territory for the first out.
How many times over the last 2 years have we seen Dellin Betances get these high leverage outs only to set up an easy 9th inning against the bottom of the order? Well, nothing's easy, but certainly Betances and middle relief and setup guys are getting more love nowadays, and deservedly so, because this is the heart of the ball game right here.
Breaking ball strike to Tulowitzki. Breaking ball hits the outside corner. 0-2. Well, he has been so consistent in the last 2 years. Big strikeout numbers, low ERA, low opponent's batting average against, and a lot of games. Really a failed starter in the Yankee system. Just couldn't get it together, and then out of desperation they put him in the bullpen, and he found his place.
A lot of 4 and 5 out appearances, sometimes 6.
Swing and a miss. McCann gets an angle, and it's a strikeout. The put out is 2-3. 2 away here in the 8th.
And on average, every other day, you see number 68 out here doing his thing. Chalk up another K ball.
So the Yankees have navigated the tough part of this lineup, but you can't go to sleep on a guy like Colabello. Breaking ball misses outside. 1-0. Yankees lead 3-2. We're in the bottom of the 8th. First game of a 3-game set. Oh, he touted at the start how this was going to be a rock'em sock'em series, and the offense has not done that much today.
Definitely not, as both starters pitched very carefully early in this game, as Tanaka looked to be on the ropes, but righted the ship, and at the end of the day he only gave up 2 runs, even though only 5 innings. But the value of the Yankee bullpen showing up once again, and as we said before, when Chapman gets back, the length of that bullpen only gets stronger and longer.
Swing and a miss. Dialed it up to 98.
Rhythm. When Betances gets his rhythm together, that's when the velocity starts to jump.
The 2-2. With the breaking ball a little bit low and the count now full.
That's the thing with Betances. Even Colabello in the back of his mind is not certain he's going to get a fastball here.
And he doesn't. He gets a breaking ball and Colabello down on strikes. And he drops his bat in disgust. Is not in love with the call. Looked like it dropped right in there. We go to the ninth. It's a one-run game here in Toronto. To the final out on Yes for the WB Mason postgame show. Our studio team, Bob Lorenz, Jack Curry, Ken Singleton, has all the analysis and reaction from tonight's contest and the latest scores and highlights from around the league. Meredith Morakovich will work the clubhouse. It's all coming up immediately following the game, only on Yes. New pitcher for the Blue Jays, Gavin Floyd, the fourth pitcher used by John Gibbons. This will be Floyd's third game. We told you Floyd was beaten out by Aaron Sanchez for one of the spots in the rotation. So Floyd will face Gregorius, Ellsbury, and Gardner, 9, 1, and 2 in the order. Didi laid down a very important sac bunt in the 7th. That moved the infield in and allowed Ellsbury to just dunk one right onto what would be the outfield grass here in the artificial turf for an RBI in left field.
Gregorius with a real hustle double for his hit. Left center field gap. Excellent base running. When you think about comparatively the 8 and 9 hole hitters on the Yankees last year compared to this year. It is night and day.
Somehow got out of the way of that. 3-2. Boy, we've seen a lot of full counts tonight.
A lot of questioning of home plate umpire James Hoy's interpretation, and that's good ability to get that back leg out of the way.
11 full counts. Did he go? Yes, he did. But the ball gets away, so Gregorius should just get to first base and stay there. Martin's walking slowly after the ball.
Say the swing, and it hit him as well on the bounce. So the swing supersedes the hit by pitch.
Yes.
But it clearly bounced off of his leg, hit the ground first. Here's priority number 1 is the swing.
And the umpires change it, and they say you're out because the swing does supersede the hit by pitch. So 1 away, and that'll bring up Ellsbury. 2 hits tonight. And his single in the 7th is the difference in this game. Crowd of 28,819 at Rogers Center tonight. And that breaks the streak of 15 straight sellouts dating back to last year. Yankees have 7 hits, the Blue Jays 3. Yankees have stranded 8, the Blue Jays 7. Tapped. Back to Floyd. 2 outs. If you want to look ahead to the bottom of the 9th against Andrew Miller, it would be the bottom third of the order. Saunders, Martin, and Goins.
Dellin Betances, just a nice little handoff with the baton to Andrew Miller.
Brett Gardner 0 for 4 tonight. Grounded back to the mound, struck out looking, grounded to second, struck out swinging. That one is lofted to shallow left. Coming on is Saunders, he puts it away, and Floyd works a 1-2-3 ninth. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Miller will try to nail it down. Let's take a look at the Land Rover drive of the game.
Well, more like a duck snort than a drive, but nonetheless very effective as Jacoby Ellsbury seemingly to me, Michael, just takes it out of the glove for an RBI single in the 7th inning, and that is the Land Rover drive of the game.
Now, as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning, we have a new battery. So that foot probably stiffened up on McCann. He's out of the game. They bring in Austin Romine to catch, and he will be catching the Yankee closer, Andrew Miller, who tries to nail down a 1-run lead.
Pretty clean so far. No ERA, no walks. 4 punchies.
Michael Saunders leads off. Lefty against lefty. Shift is on. 3 infielders on the right side. Headley on the lip of the grass at third. Missed outside, 1-0. There's a breaking ball strike. Miller dealing with a chip bone in his right wrist. Really just a pain management issue. Does not affect the way he pitches. 1-2. Miller the closer till Chapman gets back. And he was the closer last year and did such a great job. The 1-2. Two and 2. Miller works from the third base side of the rubber. And the 2-2 pitch. Strike 3. Frozen with a fastball. Saunders down on strikes.
Well, Andrew Miller can make you look like this. Actually, Romine, excellent job of holding the glove right there knee high. Got plenty of plate. But Saunders, after all those swerving sliders, does get locked up, as Michael said.
Here's Russell Martin. He is 0 for 3 tonight. Fastball strike. 0-1. Headley deep at third and close to the line. Ryan Goins is due up next, but Justin Smoke is on deck. Missed outside with the breaking ball. 1-1. One and 2. (3-2) Yankees lead. First game of a 3-game set north of the border. 1-2. Chop slowly to third, charging. Headley fires. Got him. Blue Jays down to their final out.
Headley with an excellent game today, moving very well, throwing on the run. Definitely noticed a difference in Headley's throwing style this year, even though that one was obviously get it and get rid of it quickly, but he shortened up his delivery. We saw it in spring training. Really worked hard to alleviate some of the throwing problems he had at the beginning of last year. And the results have been there. Nice game from Headley today all around.
Justin Smoke pinch hitting for Goins takes a strike on the inside corner. One hit and 5 at bats in the young season for Smoke. Yankees are strike away. It's 0-2 on the pinch hitter. Swing and a miss. Got him. And the Yankees win the game 3-2. A nice one for the Yankees to have. The big hit by Ellsbury, but the story of this game, David, has to be the bullpen again. They came in and they dealt, and Johnny Barbado picks up his first big league victory with the rest of his bullpen brethren helping him out.
That's right. Johnny on the spot with the vulture win. But 4 scoreless from the Yankee bullpen.
Good job all around for the Yankees. Tanaka lasted just 5, but the bullpen picked up the starters as they've been doing in the early going so far. Yankees pick up their 4th victory against 2 losses. We go back to the studio where the guy's going to set the table for the rest of the show.